when you're growing up in the 80s and 90s, you grew up with striking martial arts. That was it. I still wear Bruce Lee t-shirts. Bruce Lee, Chuck Norris, those were the guys, right? The legend about UFC 1. And um, this guy was doing some sort of jiu-jitsu thing, and he was half the size of everybody, and just he wasn't punching anybody, he just controlled everybody and choked everybody out. And I was like, wow, that's interesting. I thought I was a tough guy. Well, not tough, but I thought I could at least handle myself a little bit. And in the first class, I was paired against this little guy, half my size, and he just did whatever he wanted to me. I couldn't control him. He he twisted me like a pretzel, and he could just do whatever he wanted to me. That was amazing, and he was doing it with a smile. He wasn't scarring or pinching his teeth. He was actually talking me through what he was doing. That was more frustrating than anything else. So Gracie Jiu Jitsu, it comes from Japanese Jiu Jitsu. And the Gracies took Japanese Jiu Jitsu and they changed it against a larger opponent, whereas instead of using power and strength, you're using technique and leverage. Next year, Gracie Jiu Jitsu will be 100 years old, and it's taken them 100 years of mistakes to try to figure out how to teach, what to teach, when to teach it, and put a curriculum together. So that's what the Gracies have now done with the program, Hen and Here on Gracie. They've put a structured program, so it gives you the best way to get into master cycle.
Greetings, seekers of ancient wisdom. We're here again for another exciting show, and today we're talking about Jiu-Jitsu, the ancient martial art of grappling. I'm joined today by Michael, who's the owner of Gracie Jiu Jitsu in Johannesburg. So, Michael, welcome to the show.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
So, Michael, I'm so curious to know how you got into Jiu Jitsu and why you found passion in it and why you find it so interesting.
So I'd always done some sort of martial arts from when I was a kid. Everybody starts off with the striking martial arts like karate or taekwondo. Um, Growing up in a small town, I started off with karate. In my little Northern Cape in Kimberley. So karate was the thing I started with. Also, I, I did that. For as long as I was interested in it, because I was really interested in like wrestling and some of the boxing type of sports. So I ended up doing a lot of that from when I was younger. Um, and then obviously when I left school, life changed. Came about studies and finding your way in the world. And probably in about 1998, roundabout, I heard of this tournament that happened in America that was quite big, and it was probably about 5 years before then. Around about 1993, UFC 1 happened, but obviously in South Africa we were late to the party with everything. I heard about this tournament where this Brazilian guy just was smaller than everybody. It was a no hold bars tournament. It was karate versus taekwondo versus, you hear all those legends, uh, the legend about UFC 1. And um, this guy was doing some sort of jiu-jitsu thing, and he was half the size of everybody, and just, he wasn't punching anybody, he just controlled everybody and choked everybody out. And I was like, wow, that's interesting. And at the time, there was no like resources you can go find like it is now. Like you just Google something, you'll find it. Um, we kind of found out that it was Gracie Jiu Jitsu, but um, we couldn't get manuals or videos or anybody in the area to teach. And we found like we bought a couple of videos and started to practice it at home. Me and a friend of mine. Um, that's kind of how we started. Um, it wasn't great. It just wasn't great. You're trying to learn with no context. You're just following you're trying to find whatever you can to figure this thing out. And I kind of left it for a while, and then in about 2007, I ended I ended up in Johannesburg, and I ended up at a meeting a guy that had been overseas. He was a wrestler. He wasn't from South Africa, and he had spent a lot of time in the US, and he'd come back with his wife and was teaching jiu-jitsu with MMA and things like that. And I joined that academy as soon as I could. Around about 2000 must have been about 2008, 2009, when I found this guy, and I was there was and learning jiu-jitsu. And my first experience was he'd already been teaching for a while. And I walked in and I had some experience, and I thought I was a tough guy. Well, not tough, but I thought I could at least handle myself a little bit. And in the first class, I was paired against this little guy, half my size, and he just did whatever he wanted to me. I couldn't control him. He he twisted me like a pretzel. You know, whatever he wanted to do, he could just do to me, and I just couldn't understand what was happening. I had some experience, and he just choked me out whenever he wanted to, which was also a bit of a trick, because the guy that I was actually sparring with ended up being Adam Speechley, who's kind of like a local legend in UFC, sorry, in MMA, in the UFC. He was a two-time welterweight champion. So this little guy just strangled me, and I was like, "Wow, this is amazing." And and then I just never left. Just I'm almost 50 now, and I'm still doing jiu-jitsu, and I love it.
That's so cool that you had this passion for fighting, I guess, or learning some sort of martial art, because you started with karate when you were a kid in Kimberley, and then you just had this you're like drawn to it, right? It was something that you enjoyed to learn how to fight or combat type of a skill. And
It's not like I wanted to fight. Yeah, it's not like I wanted to fight. Growing up in Kimberley, being from England, I was born in the UK. Being English in Kimberley, I'm the only one of the only English guys there. I was bullied, and I had to learn quickly how to do some sort of self defense. So I wasn't walking around in the streets looking for fights. So I was trying to avoid them. But if somebody messed with the Englishman, I could handle myself a little bit. My dad was also quite a good boxer. So was my grandfather. My grandfather was a was a Navy fleet champion, in boxing, um, old school guy in the UK. Um, but yeah, I wasn't walking around fighting. I was running and riding my bicycles away from wrestling. But if they grabbed me, I could handle myself a little bit. Not in the beginning though.
okay, okay. But jiu-jitsu is quite different because you mentioned like Royce Gracie when he did the first UFC, he didn't throw any punches. So it's like there's no punching, there's no striking involved, but somehow he was able to submit these larger opponents who were striking, right? Those people were trying to hit him and punch him and kick him, but he didn't do that, and somehow he neutralized them and then also got them to tap out, like either choking them or doing some sort of submission. So is that really what got you excited? You were like, wow, this is something different and special, and you got really hooked onto jujitsu then.
Um, I, it was yes and no. I just the fact that it was like a legend about, you always hear about, when you're growing up in the 80s and 90s. You grew up with striking martial arts. That was it. I still wear Bruce Lee t-shirts. Bruce Lee, Chuck Norris, those were the guys, right? And I had friends that loved that type of stuff. And then to hear that there was this little guy that just um, controlled himself, didn't get tired, and fought these guys who were twice his size, and just you know made them submit. I think it was the submitting to, like, okay, I actually give up. you actually killing me here. Not getting knocked out. That's you don't have a choice. If somebody hits you and knocks you out, you don't have a choice. But these massive guys like saying, "This little guy's killing me," and I'm tapping and I'm giving up. I thought that was amazing. Um, that was always like the dream, right? The smaller guy being able to defend against the bigger guy. And when it comes to the striking stuff, it's always difficult. That's why they have weight categories. And, boxing had that, karate had that, age and weight categories, um, where this didn't. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. Um, and then all of a sudden, I was, and because of Adam, that very first class, he wasn't bigger than me. I could, and he could just do whatever he wanted to me. That was amazing. And he was doing it with a smile. I thought that was amazing more than anything else. It wasn't scarring or pinching his teeth. He was actually talking me through what he was doing. That was more frustrating than anything else. He was telling me what he was about to do, and I thought that was so cool. There was no aggression in it and things like that. And it just became a well. And I thought, well, hold on, I'm not, you know, um, I'm not a dumb guy, but I couldn't figure this thing out. How he did that, I don't consider myself a stupid guy. And I was like, well, why is this so difficult? Why is jiu-jitsu so difficult for me to understand that I don't, it's not about the strength. Yes, there's an element of strength and being athletic. Those are always good things to have. Um, but I didn't, I was never athletic and strong as them. So how could I not win? And I was like, okay, well, it's down to technique. Um, and there's stars and there's Gracie Jiu Jitsu's got over 600 techniques. And um, every it's probably the best martial arts for me because it's perfect at being imperfect. There is no perfect technique. We hear in class all the time. Um, what if this happens? What if that happens? And that's what makes the puzzle. You just spend time on the mats, learning new techniques, learning new solutions to problems that you may not even realize that you had or coming your way. And which is fun. There was no aggro with it, which was pretty cool. And um, that's what I love about jiu-jitsu is like every the worst. They say that the worst, the worst thing to ask is like, what if? What if? I think the Gracies and jiu-jitsu guys do this. So what if that happens? Okay, well, we'll figure it out. Um, you know, they never said they know everything. The jiu-jitsu guys like, yeah, that's a perfect technique for the best technique in the world at the wrong time is the wrong technique. And so just learning and adding and remembering stuff. Um, I remember techniques that I first learned that I've never used before, and then like for like 10 years, and all of a sudden, oh wait, here's that situation. I can use that to control or defend myself, which is pretty cool. It's amazing how your mind and your body works together. Sometimes you forget stuff, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, I remember that, which is pretty cool.
So, what's so special about Gracie Jiu Jitsu, right? Because there's so many Jiu Jitsu. I mean, I guess since Royce Gracie came on the scene, Jiu Jitsu's just like exploded worldwide, right? You get so many Brazilian Jiu Jitsu teachings all over the place. But Gracie's quite special, right? And it's just how they structured their techniques into like a curriculum that makes sense for beginners. Is that the special thing? Because I went through the curriculum, I found it quite easy and quite easy to follow, especially the beginner part.
Yeah. So what the Gracies did very very well is um, so Gracie Jiu Jitsu it comes from Japanese Jiu Jitsu. And the Gracies took Japanese Jiu Jitsu and they changed it um, to make it to work for a bigger, small against a larger opponent. Whereas instead of using power and strength, you're using technique and leverage based techniques. Um, so that was the one thing that they did. They took a lot of the techniques and just changed them. Um, And it's 100 years of mistakes. Next year, Gracie Jiu Jitsu will be 100 years old. Will be the centennial, and it's taken them 100 years of mistakes to try to figure out how to teach, what to teach, when to teach it, and put a curriculum together. Even back in the days, um, they they made mistakes. Um, there were, in the old days, one thing that changed was they you couldn't get you, when you came into the Gracie Academy, and we're talking pre 1993. You could only do private lessons. There was no group class lessons. Only group class for beginners that I want to mean. So because it was very small. So you'd come in, you do private lessons from white to blue belt, and then after that you join the group class, which is what we consider the master cycle now, the advanced class. After 1993, it all exploded. Everybody wanted to do jiu-jitsu, and then they had to figure it out. So they had to change it to group classes as a beginner's class. So guys were walking in, uh, where they had one or two private lessons. All of a sudden, next day after 1993, November 1993, there was, 30 people standing there in a line waiting to come in to do Gracie Jiu Jitsu. So the mistakes were made there was when they just put the guys into group classes. They didn't have a proper curriculum either. And it took him about I think around about 2008, where they said, okay, well, these are the techniques that you need to learn to be able to defend yourself in a street fight. And it's the same techniques you're going to see in the UFC or in the MMA fight, rear naked chokes, arm locks from mount, takedowns, double leg takedowns to get the guys to the ground, and just to stay, not necessary to win a fight, but not to lose the fight. And those 36 techniques that they've broken down into 23 1-hour classes, that's made up out of standing techniques and ground techniques. And that program is called, our beginners program is called the Combatives program. And that was actually first introduced to the US Army. Because what happened was, even the Army came to them after 1993 to the Gracies and said, okay, we need a program for our basic training. We need to teach our soldiers how to fight. Um, and that became part of what they teach in the US Army. They teach the Gracie Combatives program. There's a handful of techniques that are slightly different, but in essence, it's the same thing. The problem was that the Gracies didn't take that program and see the value of it and put it into their normal group classes. So even then, they were making mistakes. They had this perfect, uh, system. It wasn't introducing into the group classes. Only later that they said, okay, well, the combatives program will put into a group class. And then that gave birth to group classes that were structured, a technique that you were going to do on which day. You knew that when you get to master cycle, that your technique was perfect. You wouldn't fall behind. Um, and that was what's happening in the past, was the guys were coming in, the technique wasn't great, and there was the basic techniques and fundamentals that were missing when they moved before they moved into master cycle, which is now known as master cycle. And now they've started to do that with all the classes. So we have structured beginners classes for women in our Women Empowered program, which is basically techniques to stay safe and if somebody's trying to do a sexual assault or reduction. Um, and there's techniques to stay on their feet, to get away from the bad guy. If the bad guy gets into the ground, how to control the breathing, how to conserve the energy, and how to not panic, and then either escape or use a chokehold or a joint manipulation to win the fight. Combatives, it's trying to take the bag out of the ground, trying to control them, and then we have the same thing with our kids classes. We have Matt Munchkins, which is 3 to 5 years old. Those kids are learning movement-based techniques. So they're learning how to get onto mount, they're learning how to get into side control, and we're playing games with those kids. But they do that with the parents. So the parents on the mat in that class, and they're learning 10 positions of jiu-jitsu. And they're not learning, they're just getting grappling experience in a fun way. getting that closeness of the claustrophobic, or just being on the mat with a whole bunch of other kids. Then from 5 until 8 years old, we have the low champs class, which is basically mat munchkins, but with other kids. So they're doing the techniques that they're learning with other kids. Then we have junior grapplers. Now, junior grapplers is the same as combatives. It's our beginners program where they're learning arm. They show take, and then depending how the skill level of the kid and basically the character of the kid, they will move them into Black Belt Club. Black Belt Club is exactly the same as our Master Cycle class. It's our advanced class, but it's just for adults. For kids, sorry. It's the same techniques we teach in there, and they're sparring and things like that. We treat them like just like adults. They 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 they're such good kids. We have 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds in that class. They're like really good. They've been with us for a few years, and then we've got them all up until 12 to 13. And our adult classes begin from 13-year-olds and up. Every part of our class, we have calendars, which classes are happening which day, what technique we're going to be teaching. We also have our online training platform, which is Gracie University, which is also structured in a way where it's in a linear, and with the difference between a group class and online, where it doesn't matter the order that you teach the classes. So let's say tonight is class number 5. Let's say class number 5, reenact the choke, which is a choke on the back around the neck, or we're going to teach you class number 13, which is an arm lock from the bottom of the fight. You can do the classes in any random order, but we teach it like it's everybody's first time. So the classes are in random orders, and every single class is so if we have morning classes, we have midday classes, and evening classes. Our evening classes, for example, and our morning classes will not be the same technique. We might do class number 1, we might do class number 7 in the morning, class number 7 at night. It doesn't matter which class you do, because we're going to teach it like it's the very first time. Gracie University, which is our online training platform, that's pretty cool because that's taught in a linear fashion, and it's taught in the way that we want to teach you if you came in as a private lesson. If you came in and said, I only want to do private lessons, and we're saying, are you going to get it as quickly into Master Cycle as possible? It's taught, the videos are taught in that format, where it's lesson 1. You're going to learn how to clinch, and you're going to learn how to get the fight to the ground, and then how to then, if you fall at the bottom of the fight, how to trap and roll and get out from the bottom of the fight. Then it'll be class number 2 would be, okay, you got the fight to the ground, you've controlled the fight a little bit, and now you're going to do your very first submission. Class number 3, and so it goes in that order until you actually can do a full fight, which we call a fight simulation, where if we had to say, okay, well, I'm going to be the aggressor on the bag, I'll push you, and now you close the distance, get me to the ground, control me, and submit me. It's a linear fashion. So it's the same way as with the way that it's done in Gracie University. It's the same way we teach in a private lesson. And all it is a plan. So Gracie's had a plan how to fight, close the distance, get the fight to the ground, control, submit. The same way they've broken down the lessons, how we do the lessons is we do it in a fashion or a way that you can understand. It's made for the beginners. And from that, based on that and how well you do, your progression to Master Cycle should be easier. The difference between us and a lot of other schools is that they actually use 0 sparring in our classes. You've come to learn jiu-jitsu. So we're teaching you jiu-jitsu in a way that makes it safe, fun, and cooperative. There's nothing worse than trying to learn a technique against your with your partner. Your partner's not being a partner. He's being he's just being, he's not giving, he's just giving 100% resistance. So you can't get to practice the technique. That's what generally happens in sparring. So what we do is we're saying, no, in your beginners programs, there's 0 sparring until you get to Master Cycle. And the reason for that is by the time you get to Master Cycle, you invested, you've got 36 techniques, which is actually 72 variations of all the techniques that you've learned, because we've got different variations on each class. But so by the time you get to master cycle, where this starts to happen, where there is sparring, we see that people generally stick around. They they go into the sparring classes in master cycle saying, "Oh, okay, I've actually got enough tools to defend myself." Not the way a lot of people started, where at least I had done something before. I played rugby, I played football, I did combat sports and things like that. So my first class was like, okay, it's not that bad. But but at another play, if another student came in that had never done that before, they wouldn't come back. They'd learn a technique, they'd practice that technique, and they'd start sparring, and the next day they wouldn't come back because they just don't know what they're doing. Um, it's like giving a Uh, so it's like giving somebody who's just got their learner license and a Formula One car and saying, "There we go, go mad, they're going to crash." It's like the and that's what the Gracies have now done with the program. Hannah and here on Gracie, they've put a structured program, so it gives you the best way to get into master cycle. So the easiest part to get to master cycle, where you're going to stick around and you're going to learn how to spar, you're going to learn how to defend yourself, you're going to have resistance against partners, you're going to roll against skilled partners, semi-skilled partners, and that's the thing. The difference between Gracie Jiu-Jitsu and most other martial arts, it's you can test your technique every night at 100%. You could roll 100%, walk away and say, okay, cool, I was able to defend myself. You can spar 100%. But you're not trying to break somebody's arm. You're not trying to, you could go until the tap. The tap means I've given up. But in boxing, you can't do that. You can't spar every night. You can't do full contact karate every night. So you're going to go home battered and bruised. Uh, so the, the resistance training only happens every now and again, but with jiu-jitsu can happen every night. Um, and that's the cool thing about it. It's you can and and everybody loses. So people are thinking, oh, well, hold on, that guy's so good, or that lady's so good. I roll with her and contact her. She's probably saying that about somebody else as well. But the cool thing about jiu-jitsu is size and strength doesn't matter. It's all about technique and just time on the mat. It's not about who's best. It's just about who's left. There's people that I trained with in the beginning at my old school that were amazing, but they don't train. They don't train anymore. Um, for and it could just be the ethos of the school at the time, where we like encourage guys to stick around, try. It needs to be you've invested so much time into to get into master cycle or to learn how to defend yourself. Now the fun stuff is in master cycle. Stick around, you'll have fun. It's master cycle's not easy, but it's easier because of combatants, because you've gone through that program and things like that.
Yeah, so that was really cool how you explained the benefits of Gracie. And I found the Gracie curriculum, like you said, very gentle, and it was like a bridge, and you taught relevant techniques. So I must admit, I had no idea what jiu-jitsu was. When I first heard about jiu-jitsu, I thought it was just karate, and I came and saw a class, and I just decided to give it a try. And I fell in love with the fact that it's a lot of brain work, right? You have to think a lot. It's actually a lot of thinking involved in this martial art. And you keep on mentioning the word technique, and you got to really think about the technique, like how you're holding your hand and why you're holding the person's back. Why is your leg like this? Because you have to constantly think about what's going on, and you got to make sure your technique is correct, which is in terms of hand position, hand holding, leg position. All these things are very important, because if you do it wrong, then your opponent can escape, or something, or they can trap you. So you have to use your head. And I fell in love with this concept because I love puzzles and, playing chess and doing all these type of things where my brain is activated. So that's how I sort of fell in love with um, with Gracie Jiu Jitsu. But in the beginning, I had no idea what was going on. Like you had a position from mount, and you had a position from side mount, and um, all these things didn't make any sense. But I just kept coming to class, right? I was like, okay, I'll come to class. You do 20 classes, you get a stripe. You do another 20 classes, you get a stripe. So I had this little inspiration. But I think it was only when I got my third stripe that things actually started making sense. Like then I actually knew, oh, okay, there's an arm bar from mount, and there's also an arm bar from um, the when you're at the bottom, from bottom of guard, exactly. So and then there's a so then it all started making sense. Like, oh, there's these positions, and from these positions you have these different techniques you can do. So if you're in mount, you have these techniques, or if you're in side mount, you have this. If you're in guard, you have this. And then it just made sense. Like, okay, you got to think about where you are or where you want to get to in jiu-jitsu. So are you in the right position to do something? If you're not, how do you get into that position? Or how do you prevent your opponent from getting into the right position? So that was like, I just love that whole thing about having to think so much. And yeah, it made it very gentle. But now I'm seeing, now that I'm in master cycle, and I must admit, you said master cycle is not easy. You guys are not joking. It's very, very hard because people are going hard, right? You can spar as hard as you want, but you won't get injured because you can tap out. As soon as you're compromised, and I guess in your dojo there's good etiquette. People aren't trying to hurt each other, but you do want to show your skills. You're not going to break someone's arm, but you'll get into the position and then they'll tap out because you know there's no way for them to escape. It's really tough because the guys you're sparring against, or the guys I'm sparring against, are so much more skilled, right? Like all my combative moves are pointless because I try a combative escape. I try to do trap and roll, but then they immediately counter that and then do another move because they know all the counters, right, to the combatives moves. So it's quite interesting how we have to.
So what you're saying now is it's new for you, but it's not new for me. Everybody has the same journey. They come into master cycle and they go, why does my combative moves not work on these guys? It's because as soon as you get in, one of the first things we teach you, which is in our blue belt stripe one techniques, it's pretty much how to defend against anything that you do in combatives. So if those guys have been around for like 2 3 years, they got their blue belt and things like that. You trying to do an armbar and they know how to defend and they go, well, this doesn't work. But you know that it does work because if you are an unskilled opponent like you were, because what happens is once you get your third stripe, you come to we invite you to a third stripe on your combatives on your white belt in the combatives program. We invite you to the reflex development class, and if you reflex development class, that's where some kind of sparring happens. It's not crash. It's like the resistance. You know that somebody puts the armbar on you, you cannot get out. That's somebody puts an Americano on, you cannot get out. You try to figure it out. It's like, no, I can't get out. But there are ways to get out of it. They just know those techniques, how to get out of those type of things. Um, and it's also when you show the combative students there for the first time how to escape Americana, they just go, really? Is that it? I was fighting and struggling and kicking and trying to get out of this thing, trying to figure it out. And it's like, oh, all I had to do was that. And that goes back to good technique. Good technique. It's like, okay, I'll learn the technique. I've got to memorize it. And eventually, it's like riding a bike, right? You learn how to hold the wheel, hold the handles, push a little bit, step on the pedal, get up, start going. You're going to fall 50 times. Once you've ridden the bike for 3 years, you don't learn technique. You just do it. It's the same with jiu-jitsu. You don't learn how to, you don't remember the technique. You just do the technique. You don't even know what you're doing. And it's just time on the mat. Um, One thing that you did say was there's no time to think. I think with jiu-jitsu, it's the only, and it's for me, and a lot of people will say this, or some people will disagree, but I think pretty much everybody I've ever asked, they'll say with jiu-jitsu, it's the only it's the only martial art where they feel that when they practicing it, or as soon as they walk in the turn, they sit down on the mat, everything else disappears. The world disappears behind them. They don't have, all of a sudden they're not in debt. Their credit cards are maxed out. You know, the relationships are terrible. They they're not thinking about I've got that report to do tomorrow. They're in the moment, they're on the mat, they're learning technique, they're spending time with themselves, they're making new friends on the mat. And at the end of class, they go home, they got a smile in their face, they're exhausted, they're tired, they they're laughing half the time. You know, the motorcycle class ends, and we got to keep shouting. I think what the combative classes happening now because it's just such a buzz. They and I ask everybody when they go home, how was the class? They go, amazing. God, come be. I was so good, happy. I've never had it come back to me and say that was the worst class ever. You know, they say they come back and they go, that was awesome. We'll see you tomorrow, or see you in 2 days' time. Um, the world disappears in jiu-jitsu. The only thing that you do is you got to figure out what you need to do right now. Um, which is like a meta. It could be, I hate it when people say jiu-jitsu's life, jiu-jitsu changed my walk, you know, um, jiu-jitsu is everything. It's not everything. It's a break from everything. I feel when it doesn't matter how bad life gets, um, jiu-jitsu doesn't fix my marriage. Jiu-jitsu doesn't fix my credit card. Doesn't fix uh, things that are happening around me. What it does is it gives me a break. It's almost like a reset button. You go, okay, I'm gonna go home, shower, have supper, go to bed. Tomorrow's another day. I'll figure it out tomorrow. And you just do that automatically. So when you're talking about like, you just you know forget about and you just worry about the technique. It's now I'm almost 15 years in jiu-jitsu. Um, it's still longer, longer now, and still here, still doing, still feel exactly the same about it. And most people do feel it. I've never met somebody that says if they do jiu-jitsu and they stop, I bumped into seat and they go, yes, I wish I'd never quit. And just to come back, you can always come back. They can always come back to it. I've never met somebody who's been jiu-jitsu for like 7 years or 8 years and they come to me and go, I wish I never started this thing. It just doesn't happen. People miss it. If they don't have it, they miss it. For whatever, life gets in the way, right? People, you know, move jobs, change careers, whatever it is, and you move away from jiu-jitsu, but jiu-jitsu is always here, and people remember what it made them feel like.
So I do think there are elements of jiu-jitsu that can help in life. And these are some of the things that I've observed, right? It's about not stressing. Like if you're at the bottom of mount or the bottom of guard, there's things you can do. So instead of panicking or trying to get compromised, I love the fact that jiu-jitsu actually teaches you, okay, there's something I can do. Close the distance. So first, get close to your opponent, control his arm, control his neck, and then there's a way to escape, but you just have to be patient and wait for an opening, right? So sometimes an opponent won't give you an opening, they'll just wait, but then you also wait because they can't do anything if you have their arm and their neck, and so they have to do something, and when they do something it creates an opening for you to try and escape. And I think that's very relevant for life, right? People end up panicking and doing the wrong things, but if you know what is the right way to approach and not panic and also be comfortable being in these compromising positions, like being bottom of mount or being bottom of guard or you know bottom of side mount. So there's
Hen and Heron always talk about being comfortable in the most uncomfortable positions. Like so Hen and Heron are my head instructors in Los Angeles. They are the grandkids of Helio Gracie, who created Gracie with his brother Carlos Gracie. Um, so they created based on they always talk about just being comfortable in an uncomfortable position. The more time you spend in a bad position, obviously you don't want to get there. It's the same with life. You don't want to get into an uncomfortable position, but you can. In jiu-jitsu is like if I'm uncomfortable here, I can just wait it out. I can make a good decision. I can get out of this thing. It's the same with life. You know, we're going to talk about credit, like we were saying about credit cards, for example. You know, life changes. You get into a bad debt situation, or your wife or your husband is relationships are breaking. Um, Sometimes it's instead of making a rash decision and getting caught, but and getting to a worse position. Sometimes it's like take a breath. Where am I? What's the situation? Okay, and let me figure this out. Nothing wrong as well in life and jiu-jitsu is like if you're in trouble, just ask the guy that's submitting. You say, "Oh, get out of this." Ask the question. You know, people are willing to help in life and jiu-jitsu. You just got to ask the right people. Um, that's those are the things that I take away from jiu-jitsu. Is like I didn't know those things. I'm happy actually to have discussions with people. I'm not the most outgoing person, but when I'm on the mat, I'm the happiest. Because people get to ask questions, I get to ask questions, and a lot of times I'll say I actually don't know the answer. I'll ask James in Cape Town or Ken and Heron, what's the answer here? Because I don't know. In the beginning, you're talking about being comfortable. I don't. Nobody knows the whole answer to everything in life or jiu-jitsu. So when somebody would ask me something in jiu-jitsu I didn't know, in the beginning I was like, no, I'm supposed to know these things. I don't know. And Heron says, so what if you don't know? You can just ask. Just be comfortable with not knowing the answer. There's sometimes in class, I don't know if you've seen it, where somebody will ask like one of my instructors or myself a question and they don't know, and they troubleshoot it right then and there. They'll say, like, in the beginning, in the old days, they would turn around and look at me and go, "What's the answer?" And I'd say, "Well, I know what the answer is. Here it is." But after class, I'd say, "Why don't you just troubleshoot it, and you'll get the answer?" And it's the same with life, right? If you just troubleshoot stuff, you'll get the answer. Same as jiu-jitsu. If you just troubleshoot I don't know what to do in this position. You sometimes you can figure things out for yourself. Um, if you really need help, then somebody's always there to help you anyway.
Yeah, I love that. It's learning the first principles. The other thing I learned, and this has come to me more in the master cycle, is how you use one technique. So I'm going to use the escape from being at the bottom of mount. So there's two escapes that you teach us in combatives, right? You teach us trap and roll, where you're going to trap one side of the opponent and then roll him that side so they can't base or stop it. And the other escape is the elbow escape, right? So I've learned when I first got into Master Cycle, I tried to do a trap and roll, and immediately I get they stop my trap and roll and they put me in a submission. Or if I try elbow escape, immediately they, you know, stop that, they counter it, and they put me in a submission. But then I learned that if I start the trap and roll and then quickly switch to the elbow escape. So as you start the trap and roll, you create a response from your opponent. Your opponent has to do something to stop your trap and roll, and that creates an opening for the elbow escape. So then you quickly switch to elbow escape, and then you. So I learned that the combination of techniques is actually very powerful. So you can use one technique to lure your opponent or to get them to do something and then quickly move to and then that's how you sort of flow in the jiu-jitsu. And I think that's so amazing for life, right, as well. So maybe just using one technique alone doesn't work, but a combination of two can be very powerful.
Yeah, that, that's like life, right? Sometimes let's say for example, we have a situation where myself and you have to have a hard talk about something that happened on the mat or something like that. And I'm upset about it. And I come to you and I'm upset. And I can be kind of, and I'm angry, or I'm having a hard talk. I'm like, Deepak, I didn't like that, what you did or whatever it is. And you and I could expect something, a reaction out of you. And maybe I'm not expecting a reaction, but you go, oh shit, but sorry, I didn't know. That can change my reaction to you. They can change my reaction. Oh, wait, hold on. I need to calm down here. Maybe I've done, you don't know. But it could be like I come to you and I say, listen, Deepak, I didn't like it. And you go, oh, what you going to do about it? Hold on. Now we're having a different type of talk. And it's the same with jiu-jitsu, right? Something happens and there's a reaction and something else can happen. Right? But the one thing on like life and with jiu-jitsu is like, you could do the trap and roll, it doesn't work, and you panic, or you get frustrated or you get frustrated about it, so you force it. The same with life is like, if I'm having a hard talk with you and you're remorseful and I'm like pushing this stuff, I'm angry about it. You say, oh, I've got to change direction here. Same with trap roll. Go to the elbow skate. Oh, okay, calm down, find yourself, be comfortable, be comfortable where you are. Just learn to relax. That's the main thing, right? You can have a hard talk or have an engagement with somebody when you can just be relaxed about it. I think jiu-jitsu gives people a lot of confidence. We see that also in our women empowered programs where, um, you know, a lot of that is about boundary settings and things like that. You're talking about switching techniques and things like that. In women empowered, we teach boundary settings, how to verbalize in the verbal jiu-jitsu, how to approach somebody, look them in the eye and say, I don't like that. Please don't do that again. Or, I'm not interested, or don't approach me, whatever it is, without being like overly aggressive, but like I'm standing my ground. Um, but we teach them how to be calm at the same time. Like, look calm, Baba. And jiu-jitsu, the physical side, it teaches you there as well. Well, I'm in big trouble here. Somebody's got their hand on my collar, they're about to choke me out. Like, okay, I could panic. I can try, go crazy and get out of this thing, or go, okay, what's my best technique to get out of this? Okay, block it, get out, and things like that. I think that's one thing jiu-jitsu taught me, because I never used to be the calmest guy. Um, Things would round me out quickly and I'd have a little explosion, like get this thing, and then 10 minutes later I'm fine. Now, I don't do that as half as much as I used to do. Get upset about things. Because if I did, no, I think my jiu-jitsu matches my demeanor at the moment. Lot more calm. Beat you a technique or get you frustrated.
So I find so many benefits that the jiu-jitsu teaches you about life, and especially about being calm in tough situations, knowing the technique, timing, and it's also about control, right? So that's another very important thing that I learned in jiu-jitsu is when you get into a position is to maintain control there. And you teach us a lot to like tire the person out. So you don't like just go from, if you get onto top of mount, it's a bit of a controlling position. You don't just go straight from there to an armbar or to Americana. You wait there for a bit and you tire the person out. And it's about also that patience. So it's patience when you're in a compromising position, but also patience when you're in a strong position to wait and to control your submission. So there's no real, I guess, if you're doing it correctly and you slowly put the submission on, your opponent has no way of escaping, right? Because you're gonna have control each time, and it's low risk. Whereas like a punching kind of karate boxing type of thing, there's a lot of luck involved. You could get a punch, you could be ducking and you could get a kick to the head just by chance, and then you're knocked out. But in jiu-jitsu, there's a lot less of that happening, right? There's a lot less chance and probability, low probability type of things happening, isn't
Yeah. So like for example, a good example of that is you're on mount, right? So you're on mount, you're controlling me, and I decide I'm gonna try escape. By escaping could be that you lose position. So I might be able to turn to my side, and if you stay full mount, chances are you're going to fall off. What jiu-jitsu teaches is like, okay, I'm losing this position. I need to stay calm. I just need to change the angle, change the position, and I'll get into, I'll still be in control. And that's life, right? You could be in a bad position and in a great position, and something changes. You can either go with that flow and, lose, or you can change your position and go, okay, I'm going to change, stay calm, change position, and still win. Here's the thing about jiu-jitsu. Let's say Steph, Stephanie, she's one of our instructors. She's like 52 kilograms. She's she's very, very light. I'm not twice the size. Um, when I roll with Steph, I don't I don't try like use all my weight or my strength and try pin her. I try beat her with technique. And now that's different. So I'm not using strength, I'm using technique to try beat her. Very difficult to do. Like if I wanted to control her because she's so small, I could definitely control her. To a certain extent, to a certain extent, but she's going to be calm. She's going to use technique and get out of there. Um, and that's the cool thing about jiu-jitsu is like you could be the smallest person, the worst advantage, all these things against you, same as life, all these things against you, you can still come out on top and still win. I mean, like I rolled with her last night and I was like, okay, I'm going to catch her. I'm going to use technique. And the next minute she was trying to strangle me. I was like, okay, hold on, I've got to use my technique to try beating this. If I try power out of this and just like go crazy, she's going to win. So now I have to use other techniques, stuff that she would use. You can't beat her with if it's just technique based only. Um, just the other thing about what Gracie Jiu Jitsu is slightly different is most schools don't have they do jiu-jitsu versus jiu-jitsu. So what that means is I'll teach you a technique, you teach a technique, I'll also teach you a technique how to counter that. What if this guy does this in jiu-jitsu and things like this? We do the same thing. We have the sports side of jiu-jitsu. So in Master Cycle, we'll say, if you are doing a armbar, you can do this, you can do that, you can defend, blah, blah, blah. Then we have the self-defense side. The self-defense side and the jiu-jitsu side is two different things, completely different. One, it's sports versus sports. The other one is self-defense. So every week we put on a pair of gloves. And what we're doing is we're saying, okay, we're going to start standing. We're going to get the fight to the ground. There is going to be punches thrown as a bad guy trying to knock me out. And I need to defend it. Now, obviously, the bad guy is not trying to knock me out. They're trying to be an unskilled bad guy or semi-skilled bad guy. And we're adding strikes. And that's the self-defense side of that. And you're quickly doing jiu-jitsu versus jiu-jitsu. You can control somebody with position and things like that. The easiest way to escape somebody in a bad position is if they're throwing strikes. So you could be on mount or side control and start to throw, and I caught maybe using technique to stop me to escape. But as soon as you strike me from the better position, you lose control, and that gives me opportunity to escape. So that's also a cool thing about Gracie Jiu Jitsu is like we think Jiu Jitsu is tough and like it's difficult to get out of it, and it is. Now we add strike, it makes it even more tougher. But then we realize like actually the more aggressive the guy is, the more he's trying to hit me, the easier it is for me to get out and escape and control him. I just must not get locked out. I must not get knocked out. But there's no such thing in karate movies and things like that where, especially Steven Seagal movies, he never gets hit. Nothing ever happens to him. Never gets hit, never gets knocked out. Um, um, that's not true. You are going to get hit in jiu-jitsu. You are in martial arts. You just want to close the damage, close the distance, or maximize the distance. Get all away from somebody. If I close the distance, I can minimize the damage. I'm going to get hit, but maybe it's out of 10 threes and fours, no knockouts. But the further away I'm too close, I can get knocked out with a 10. And life will teach, and jiu-jitsu will teach you that. Distance management, getting closer, getting away, um, when to escape if somebody's super aggressive, staying calm in an uncomfortable position. That's that's life, right?
Yeah. So I wanted to chat a little bit about the belt structure because it's quite unique, right? So you've got the white belt is the beginners, and those are the guys that are just learning the basic techniques, and then you have to do a grading, right? And the grading is quite serious, I guess, because you want to make sure the person has the right technique before they get into the next cycle, what you call the master cycle. And I remember my first time I graded, I actually failed because I didn't have the techniques right. I was making a mistake here, my hip wasn't right, and you guys gave me the feedback, so I had to go and work on those things, get those right, and come back and grade again. And it was very good because I realized if I had those wrong techniques, those wrong fundamental techniques, if you go into the higher belt, you're going to carry those bad habits with you, right? So it's very important to correct it before the person moves on. And and I guess from white you go to a combatives belt, which is like a sort of an in between bridge belt, and then you have the blue belt where a person is like, okay, they are now competent. And then from blue, you have purple, brown, black. But maybe just talk us through this early stage, the white combatives and blue, because that's quite a unique sort of belt.
So in the old days, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, um, there was no combative spot. So everybody that came into a Gracie Academy or most BJJ schools would have to do private lessons with your head instructor. And then once you did all your private lessons and you were fundamentally sound, you would move into a group class. You would be awarded your blue belt and you'd move into a group class with the master cycle. And then they'd move on to blue, purple, from blue, purple, brown, and black. Um, to get your black belt in jiu-jitsu, you're looking about most people uh, who actually get their black belt will take about 15 years to get or so. It takes around about 15 years to get your black belt. If life gets in the way, some people take longer, 20 years. It's just a journey, right? Everybody's on a different journey. Some people, like, they get it within 8 years and things like that. But those are exceptional. That's not for everybody. Jiu-jitsu is for everybody. So on average, most people 15 years or so to get their black belt. Um, the how the belt system works now is because we all have group classes, we have a bridging belt between white and blue. It's our self-defense belt. They are still a white belt, but they street competent where they understand distance management, striking management, how to control a bad guy on the ground, how to escape a bad guy, and how to control their body so they don't overreact, don't panic in the street fight, and, and against an unskilled guy, and not lose that fight, and hopefully win that fight, but not to lose it. You only get knocked out. That leads into they'll get their combative belt, and that's still a white belt. They're not a pure jiu-jitsu white blue belt yet. Then they'll have that takes that the combative program takes about 8 months on average to do. Some people go through it quicker. They can test within 6 months, but most people take about 8 months. Some people take longer. Some people life gets in the way, a year and a half down the line, and they can test. They move into master cycle, and they spend about another year there before they get their blue belt. But it's just constant time and things like that. And to get their blue belt, you just need to be comfortable against another grappling partner, somebody who understands jiu-jitsu and are able to defend themselves against controls, so they can get out of controls. They're comfortable with the bottom of mounts. They're comfortable in the bottom side control. They don't panic and try to force things from top positions, better positions trying to force. They're just a lot more comfortable in that. They'll move into blue belt. So from white to blue can take on average, about 2 years. 2 years to get. The blue to purple is the long one for under Gracie Jiu Jitsu. So a lot of schools, what they'll do is some schools will the blue belt might take longer. Some are a lot quicker to get their blue belt. The blue belt shouldn't be too difficult to get. It's the blue to purple that's a long time in under Gracie Jiu Jitsu. On average, it's you're looking at about 6 years to get from blue to purple. There's a lot of details, a lot of techniques that you're going to learn in there. Then you're going to learn about 600 techniques just in the blue belt curriculum, um, and trying to perfect those techniques to get them to. But every single technique that you learn is from your blue to purple, which is part of our daily lessons. Um, it comes from combative techniques. So if we teach you a control from side control, the or the better example, and a choke, a rear naked choke in the back where you put somebody to sleep. We're going to teach you other chokes, but the fundamentals of those chokes will still stay the same. How you it's the setup and the finish may be slightly different, but having the the trachea in the triangle position. Pulling through the arm, through the neck, making sure that the head doesn't bobble, that the head is controlled with your own head and that the space is killed. Those are still the fundamentals that you get to learn in combatants. You just learn different variations of them in Master Cycle. Um, then from purple to brown, it's really about uh, it's the rolling techniques. It's the rolling belt. So what I mean by that is like those students will get really good at sparring, rolling. They will start honing their techniques, the ones their favorite ones. And then the brown belt is once you're a purple belt. There's a lot of people say once you're a purple belt, you're pretty much a black belt. He just needs a little bit more time on the mat. And then brown is pretty quick. So purple to black is usually about maybe about 5 to 6 years. So for purple to black is quicker, is a lot quicker. It's just how on the mat those guys, those students are a lot more dedicated. They know they're on their path. They're amping up to get that black belt and things like that. What you do find with the black belts, Henan Heron and James and all these guys will say it is um, most martial arts, you get your black belt, whether it's karate or taekwondo, whatever it is, and that's it. That's the end of the line. People quit. With jiu-jitsu is like they get their black belt and they start again. They just keep showing up. You don't work that hard for 15 years just to quit because you got your black belt. Once you get your black belt, you pretty much you'll never quit. I think once you get your purple belt, I don't think you are going to stop jiu-jitsu. There's so much time invested in there. Dedication to be able to on the mats to get that purple belt, and then your purple to brown is just I think it is like you figuring out why your technique may not be bad and just practice, getting into worse positions, putting yourself in worse positions, defending yourself, getting better at getting out, getting better at submitting people. It's not about learning cluster of techniques. It's like, well, I'm really good at these ones, and I just hone them in for the next like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, and I find it like a way of life, eh? And I think maybe that's what you've done at your dojo somehow, because people there at your dojo, they're not really trying to hurt each other, but they also, you know, committed, um, and they've got a good vibe. I don't know how you created that, but it's like very well done. That it's just somehow I mean, guys and girls are rolling. There's all age groups. In our master cycle, there's kids is like 16 years old, and like the old guys are probably like in their 60s. There might be guys close to 60 or maybe in their late 50s, and there's women as well, and they're all somehow rolling with no aggression somehow. There's no fights going on. It's actually just good etiquette. People are rolling, rolling hard and going each other, giving good resistance, but there's no drama?
I think there's a couple of things. It's natural. It's not force fed. Um, the the ethos of the gym. A lot of people, promote their gyms as like ethical, blah blah blah. But then it's not that. They have morals, blah blah, but it's just not that. Um, I'll take you back 2011. My wife told me she's pregnant, and I was like so excited. I was like, I can't wait to find out. Oh, it's going to be a girl. Great. I cannot wait for her to come train with us. And my wife looked at me and she says, "With you bunch of assholes." And I was like, "What?" She's like, "Yeah, you guys think about it. How many females on the mat? How many white belts on the mat? It's all the guys that are tough that are on the mat at your gym. People don't last." And I was like, "Yeah, you don't know what you're talking about. Our guys are really good. They're good at jiu-jitsu. They're good at MMA." And it kind of bothered me for a while. And then what happened was I got hurt. I got hurt. I hurt my hip flexor, and I spent some time off the mat, and I was just drilling and things like this. And I was sitting around watching, and I was like, "Geez, these guys go hard. They try to beat each other." And I just noticed the time I was off the mat, when I was just drilling by myself for about three months, how many guys would start and never come back. I can't remember when, and I still, and I was like, I don't know, I have to be right here. That's I want to be right. And I was like, because she's not involved, and then she's not seeing what we're doing. And then I realized, like, oh, wait, there's no females on the mat. And about 2015, I knew James for a little bit. James and Gracie, James is smart. James Smart, he owns Gracie Cape Town. He's one of the OGs that brought Jiu-Jitsu to South Africa. He's been around for like 17 years or so, maybe a little bit longer. 2005, I think they opened up. Um, I'd met him. I'd met him on Union, and I said I want to come down, and I wanted to do Gracie Jiu Jitsu. So I reached out. I was like, okay, I want to do Gracie Jiu Jitsu. I only want to do Gracie Jiu Jitsu because um, there was a couple of reasons why. I wanted to understand a little bit more about it, because I don't. Even though we so there's Gracie Jiu Jitsu and there's Gracie Baja. Now Gracie Baja, it's a sports gym, and Gracie Jiu Jitsu is self defense. I was really interested in self defense because that was what I'm interested in there. Self defense and then also the sports side. So the nice thing about Gracie Jiu Jitsu did a combination of both. Um, but there was no Gracie Jiu Jitsu up in Johannesburg. So I'd seen the stuff on the internet, learned a little bit more about it, started to do some of the techniques and some of the stuff by myself. Um, and then one day I found James and I was like, "Listen, I'm down in Cape Town this week. Can I come train?" He's like, "Yeah, sure. Pop in and come have a look." And I walked in, and here is must have been about maybe 70 people on the mat. Could have been a little bit more. And probably about 35% of them were females. And I was like, "Hey, what's this?" And then James just said to me, "Go roll, have some fun." And it was a sparring night. And then I just didn't approach the ladies. And the one lady came approach, she said, "Would you like to roll?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." And she gave me such a hard time. And I've already been training for a long time, but she gave me like a legit hard time. And I couldn't believe it. And then I spoke to James after the class, and I said, "Listen, I want to speak to you about this." And he's like, "I know what you're going to ask me, and I'll never let you guys open up a Gracie school in Johannesburg, not you guys." I was like, "Yeah, what do you mean?" Like, "Oh, this is kind of disappointing." He's like, "No, you guys are warm to the sports. We're looking at self-defense. It's a different type of person that's coming to you guys. It's not what Gracie Jiu is trying to. Haley Gracie was only, one thing he said was Haley Gracie was like only 62 kilograms. He defended himself against smaller guys, against bigger guys, stronger guys, and heavy guys. But he had to learn how to do the techniques before he was able to do that. You guys don't give anybody a chance. You just are sparring from the beginning and kill each other." I was like, wow, it's, I know I've been told this almost the same thing twice. one is by my wife and one's by James. And I went back and I said, okay, well, let me look more into this. Um, I did, and I decided I was going to do my combative part. So me and a handful of friends, we went, we trained, we did the techniques. It wasn't too difficult because we had some experience. Um, and I failed. That's the one thing. There's been two people who's failed the combative test, the official test. Myself and another student out of everybody the test. The reason was is because I was still trying to do the techniques like I was sparring. I was skipping steps, all those type of things. And James just said, no, no, no. You still don't get it. Um, do it again. And I did it again, and then I passed. Um, and James said, okay, you seem to be quite serious about it. So you wanted to talk to me. What do you want to talk to me about? And I said, oh, listen, I want to speak to my instructors here, see if we can change the way we do things, because the whole back of my mind, I wanted my daughters to train. And we tried it. I tried to speak to him, and he was like, nope. My instructor at the time says, we're not changing it. We've got EFC fighters, we've got champions here. I said, yeah, but did you just do for everybody? He's like, no, I'm not changing it. So then we had an agreement that I would go do the instructor schools. So Hen and Heron in Gracie University in Los Angeles, they have a instructor's course. You have to, it's like a full program on how to teach. It takes about that time was about a year training, and I did the program. Went to Los Angeles, came back in 2018, just before 2018. Myself and my then instructor, he moved over to the wrestling and things like that, and the MMA and stuff like this completely, and I teaching jiu-jitsu out of the academy. But what happened was that it was two different mindsets. And then we split. We split about 2018, I think it was. And I went on my own. He went to the other way, and he's still around, and he's still doing his thing. But it was just two different mindsets. And the one thing, like, now again, I know it's a long thread, but from that day onward, when it was 2018, we were by ourselves. I was like, we will, if I need to understand the reasons why you are here to come do Gracie Jiu Jitsu. So we do a 10-day free trial for everybody. And the 10-day free trial is for two things. Do you like us? Do you like what we're about? Do you understand what we're trying to do here? And do we like you? It's an exclusive place. Gracie 4 is an exclusive place. We've had hard talks to say, listen, there's an academy down the road, there's another place over here, maybe go try them out. Because we're trying to make it that if you walk in, you've walked in for a reason, as Deepak, to learn how to defend themselves. Imagine the next guy walked in and he's like, I don't want to beat people up. And that's the attitude. He's like, well, if that's what you want, be somebody else's problem. It's not our problem. So we have over 300 students, and they all understand the ethics and the ethos of the gym. It's not forced. It's not forced. It's like, these are good people that are training with us. They're all good people. These are people that are invited for a braai. We'll talk about rugby. We'll talk about family, friends. I think most of the guys are genuinely interested in how everybody's doing. When they say, hi, how are you? I don't think that's forced. I think everybody greets everybody. Nobody doesn't greet anybody. It's the people that we want to train with, who we like. Um, yeah, every now and again a bad apple may go through, but then we just have the hard talk later. But there's nobody out there trying to, in our academy, trying to hurt them, because they've been through the combative program. Where we do struggle, we've got guys that have come from other schools, and now we have to change some of their thinking. We've got a purple belt he's been at 3 other schools. He's been kicked out of those schools because he was beating up the head instructor, beating up other black belts. He's really, really talented, really good, really strong, and just beating them up and He didn't understand why they were getting frustrated with him. He ended up at us, and for 2 hours, his first class was me and him talking about how we do things here. And it took a while, but now Grant is now when you say who he is, Grant is one of the coolest guys to roll with. He'll give you a hard time, but he's not out to hurt you. Where he was taught bad habits, bad things, maybe in other schools, became better than the other guys, and he was hurting people because they were trying to hurt him, and it's this. It's not that anymore. We can change most people, but most people won't change their mind on us. So they either like us or they don't like us, and that's cool. If we're not for everybody, jiu-jitsu is for everybody. They can find somewhere else to train if they're looking for that. But if they want to have cool time, good time, walk away, they can roll reasonably hard, go crazy without trying to hurt each other. Also, the other thing is that what we talk about the whole time is the one thing we'll never accept is that your victory over my safety. The most important person on the mat is never you, it's your partner. And that's the mindset I've is like, not my safety, it's the safety of my partner that I'm rolling with. How safe are they? And I'll never go for a victory if it means hurting my partner. And we talk about that quite often. Like safety over victory every single time. There's just so many times people force something and go, okay, I'm gonna get this and go for it and go crazy, and they hurt them, and then they're off the mats. Nobody wants to be off the mat. Injuries happen. Injuries happen. People get hurt because it is combat. It is physical. Um, but I don't think when injuries happen at our school, it's because somebody maliciously tried to hurt you. It's mostly an accident. Somebody being clumsy or something like that, or something like that, but not maliciously trying to hurt somebody. I think that's the biggest difference between us and everybody else.
So there you guys have heard it. This is a very, very special jiu-jitsu school. I call it the Jiu-Jitsu Dojo, and it's in Johannesburg. It's the only Gracie Jiu-Jitsu self-defense school in Johannesburg. And I'm going to leave all the details below the video here. And you guys can check it out. They've got a great online store, and they've got a great vibe and community. I think that's the great thing you've built, Mike, is a great community of people who just want to enjoy jiu-jitsu. You don't want to hurt. I mean, I definitely don't want to hurt anyone, but I know when I'm going to come sparring later at class that it's going to be hard, and you got to really, get ready for some work. But I know it's going to be safe, and it's really quite special. So well done on creating it.
Oh, thank you. And we offer, so anybody who would like to try the class, we offer for all our programs, all our beginner programs, a 10-day free trial. Even if you, and so for 10 calendar days, you can come to as many classes you want to, as a combatives or junior grapplers class, whatever it is, and try the class out. We actually give you a uniform for those 10 days. So you don't have, there's no output of capital to start. And then try the classes. From time to time, we do offer a free seminar. We do about 4 a year, 2 combatives and 2 women empowered seminars that happen every single year. And then we, for Master Cycle, people quit jiu-jitsu to other places for many, many reasons, right? If you're looking for a play, if you're a color belt, you're a blue belt or a purple belt, or even a black belt, we have black belts that train with us because they don't want to train at other places anymore. If you are a student, like I want to look for a safe place that's going to look after me, I'm going to have a good time. Come try. Come try for 10 days by it and see the difference between maybe where you are. Maybe we can get you back on the mat. There's nothing worse than somebody dedicating time to the mat, to being on the mat, and they quit because of the experience. And if you don't like it, you can choke me out for free.
Yes. You guys heard it. So you can get to choke out Mike if you don't enjoy it. But the 10-day free trial is available to anyone, anytime. So you go to Gracie Jiu Jitsu in 4 ways. You tell them you want a 10-day trial, and you have 10 calendar days. You can come to as many classes as you want in those 10 days. You get to check out how it works. And that's how I started out. And I completely fell in love with the sport. Maybe different reasons to what Mike fell in love with it. I love the thinking and the puzzle solving and this community that's been built there. But you might find another reason to love this gym or the dojo. So, Mike, we really enjoyed the chat. Do you have any closing remarks before we shut off?
Yeah, even if you don't, even if you're not near us, um, try to find a school. If you cannot find a school, go into gracieuniversity.com, sign up for a couple of lessons. There's a handful of lessons. And so if you're in the middle of Dahlstrom or you in Boshoff, somewhere in the Northern Cape, and you've got one or two friends like want to try it, don't be like me. 1999, trying videos and things like this and try to figure it out. Go into Gracie University, check it out. Um, they'll give you a handful of videos that you can practice home. Try it, give it a try. You never know. You might fall in love with it. You might be the next world champion, or the next Hannah Gracie teaching jiu-jitsu. Give it a try. You never know what your passion is. It could be something new. Try it.
That's actually quite special. Sorry, I was about to close off the show and we didn't even talk about the Gracie University. And I think we need to touch on that just before we finish the podcast. So, the Gracie University is this online portal. And if you're a member of any Gracie gym anywhere in the world, you get access to this online portal and they have videos, but detailed videos of all the moves. You can watch it chronologically, but what I did was I would watch it before my class. So, you have your combatives calendar, and I'll say, okay, today we're doing class 7. So I'll go find those videos on the Gracie University. So watch it before the class so I know, okay, this is what they're going to happen. And then I watch it again maybe after the class just to remind myself like the details. And just to get my grading in the combatives, to get the combatives belt, I had to watch all of those videos at least one or two times, definitely. And because all the information is there, and it's such an amazing portal of information and detailed techniques. Like the brothers spend like maybe 1 hour just going over one technique and the slight variations and all the details of how they do it, and they show you. So that is an amazing, amazing um, information repository, right? That's created to support your jujitsu, and I really feel that it's. I don't know if other universities or other dojos or gyms have this kind of repository of content, but this Gracie one is really, really good, very helpful, very relevant, and really helped my game.
From about 2008, I think it was 2008, 2009. They started Gracie University. It's an online training platform that you can watch the videos online. Um, um, but in 2020 comes, everybody's locked up at home. Um, Everybody's scrambling around in the digital world to bring stuff online. Before then, every school in the world were like, you can only teach in person. You can only teach in person. 2020 comes and like, oh wait, hold on. Yeah, we need to get people trained online around the world because now they can't do it. Where Grace University was always like frowned upon, like the head instructors would say, no, you can't teach like that. It's bullshit and blah, blah, whatever it is. Not everybody's trying to do it. Everybody's trying to do a version of Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, where there's um, local schools are trying to do their version now. Schools around the world, world champions are doing it. N&M were 10 years ahead. They're always going to be 10 years ahead because they've got other things that they're putting onto the system as well. There's always being updated, all new relevant. If things change, they will change it as well. Um, but the nice thing about it, so if you could walk into a school where they don't have these type of, where they may not have Grace University, and you've got to trust the instructor that they actually know what they're talking about. Like this is the legit technique, and there's a and it's whatever that instructor's standard is, it's his standard. With the difference in us and everywhere else, our standard, how we teach, how we show the techniques, it's online for everybody to see. So as a student, you can walk in and you can go, Michael, but Hen and Heron don't do it that way. And I've made up something. It's like, no, you have to know the technique. You have to be able to present it in the way that makes sense. our standard is now such a high standard because we have to try to compete against Hen and Heron who have done this stuff online, um, which is awesome. Which is awesome. So there's always a reference to see. Listen, there's a lot of guys who profess to be martial artists and teach you things like that. There's some crazies out there. Going to Gracie University and walk into a school and see if they do the same thing. You'll know if it's good or bad immediately. It comes from the source of the river, Nile, right? It's coming straight from the grandsons of Haile Gracie and the uncle of Carlos. It's it's the source of the Nile, and that's the cool thing about Gracie University. It makes a standard, and it gives the opportunity for anybody around the world. You can be in Boshoff in the middle of nowhere, in the smallest town of 200 people doing jiu-jitsu in the garage. You just need a couple of mats. You don't have to be great at it. Nobody has to be great at jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu is already so hard. Nobody has to be perfect at jiu-jitsu. It's just striving to get better. But come through. We have guys I've got friends in Kimberley that have Gracie University access. They come through every now and again, and they come for a couple of privates. We fix their techniques. They go back with new stuff. We've got students that are online that come through from Howick. We've got students that come from Secunda. They do privates on every other weekend, and they do privates with us. They do join the group class. We've got guys in small towns I don't even know how to pronounce. I don't even know where they are. They've signed up with us on Gracie University, and they come through and they test their techniques whenever they're in Joburg and things like that. That's the cool things. Like um, they get access to Gracie University, and they go and then they come and they go, wow, they might not be perfect, but it's like one or two things to fix, and they're like, great. And you go, that's just online training. It's real. It actually does work. However, it doesn't work for everybody. You actually have to be dedicated and actually sit and go, okay, let me understand the technique. Let me break it down. Let me actually follow the instructions step by step instead of skipping steps and thinking I know better. It's a hard way to work, but to learn, but you can learn that way. You you if you're in Boshoff in the middle of Northern Cape somewhere where you're not going to be competing, you're not going to be competing. You just want to be able to defend yourself if somebody attacks you in your house, and that's okay. If you've got some technique that kind of works until it comes through, we can fix it. It's better than having nothing, if you ask me. Which is great. So Hen and them, all praise for them for putting that program, that Gracie Online training platform together. It's amazing.
It truly is amazing because if you join the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu gym that Mike runs, you have your monthly fee that covers your lessons for the month, and then automatically you get access to the Gracie University online portal. I mean, just that itself, I think, is worth my monthly fee because I spend a lot of time watching the videos, when I get a chance. So it's such good value for money. You get access to the gym, you get access to the online portal, and you get access to such a wonderful community that just enjoy jiu-jitsu.
And we got guys that travel, right? So they go from Jason and then we're down in Cape Town this past weekend. They train for free at Cape Town, at Gracie Cape Town, for 30 consecutive days. All they do is when they come back, they tell us how many classes they did when they were there. Because we track your progress on a card system. So every time you go to a class, just to track you. If your card's full, doesn't mean that you're going to get a strike promotion. It's just to track where you are, how often that you're coming, so that we can see, are you ready for your next belt and what you can work on towards your next belt with strike promotion, things like that. So for 30 days, you can train at any CTC certified training center around the world for free. You can go to Los Angeles and go say hi to Hen and Heron and train them. All you do is you come back and tell us how many classes or which classes you did in the beginner's program. We'll update your card. The techniques, the way that we're taught, because all our instructors are certified and instructed, taught how to teach by Hen and Heron. Personally, they have to go to Los Angeles and do the instructor certification program. Our guys are not. They don't go, okay, I'm a blue belt, so I'm going to teach, or I'm a purple belt, and I'm going to teach, because they're taught how to teach and what to teach. So the standard is always so high. You can go anywhere, being part of the network of Gracie Jiu Jitsu. You can train anywhere in the world with Gracie University and at any certified training center as well. And you're going to see that the way that we teach is exactly the same.
Yes, that's right. That's right. So you have access to Gracie anywhere in the world. You have access to Gracie online. It's such an amazing way to learn Jiu-Jitsu. It's gentle, but it's also going to push you to your limits. So, Michael, we really appreciate your time and sharing this amazing knowledge about this wonderful, wonderful sport. Till next time, ciao for now.
Cheers, have a good day.